Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to the August 2017 free project of the month. And this month, the title of the project is Monster Trucks Racetrack Applique. This is Kathy Farrell, National Educator with RNK Distributing, and thank you for joining me. To get started on this month's project, the first thing that you'll want to be sure to do is to download your August free designs. And within your August free designs, those are on the myfloriani.club, will be your free design and the instructions for this month's project. Your free design this month is from the You Design It collection titled Monster Truck. What you see over here on the right-hand side of the screen are the various components. And when we get into the software, I'm going to do a real quick overview again of how the You Design It collection works. But basically, you start with some kind of a base, and in this collection, it will be to pick your vehicle, and then you're going to add different components to it. And so in the Monster Truck collection, you get to decorate the truck. So you get to add a window element, you get to add enhancements to the hood, and you get to pick tires for there. So these really are a lot of fun, and this is the You Design It collection is proprietary to the Floriani software. Make sure that you also print your handout with the directions and the materials list, and later on in this video I will go through where you will find this handout. The objectives for this month's lesson are actually on the simple side. You will define your grid settings, and we're going to use the grid this month as we create the various components of the project. We are going to utilize the Snap to Grid feature as we create those components. We're going to use the grid in the background for the design. So this is a heavy focus on using our grid as a tool in the design process. We are once again going to be working with Applique. We're going to modify the Applique, and we're going to work with various shapes. This month's lesson is a little more intensive in the software. And not that it's hard, but you're going to be creating 4 separate design components. The materials that you need for this month, of course, is your Floriani Total Control U software with your most recent update. You also need your free project of the month handout, and that has your detailed supply list. Now, I don't normally cover the materials that are used in the lesson, but as you'll see here on the screen, there are 7 new products that are incorporated into this month's project, and I wanted to highlight those very quickly. The first product that we're going to be using that's fairly new is our Floriani Cutaway Medium Fusible Stabilizer. You see that it comes in a variety of widths. I recommend the 12-inch width. And we're going to be using this not as a stabilizer, but actually as interfacing on the bag. So it's really nice in that it's fusible, and we'll just fuse that directly onto the fabric of the bag. Another one of the new products that we're using this month, this is the Quilters Select 12 by 12 ruler. These rulers, if you have not tried these yet, are absolutely fantastic. I love them. First of all, I'm going to use my mouse to highlight this, but when you get one, you'll find that they are double numbered. And so the numbers read not only from left to right, but there's a second line right here where they read from right to left. They are coated with a waxy coating, and they are truly a non-slip ruler. So I use the 12 by 12, and I actually use this as the template for cutting my bag and for squaring off the bag. The Quilters Select Rotary Cutter is another one of the newer products that we're going to be using. If you haven't had the opportunity to try one of these rotary cutters, they are fantastic. I can't demonstrate for you in the video how they work, but they are weighted. They're very, very easy to use. They're ergonomically designed. They're right-handed or left-handed. So get down to your Floriani dealer and make sure that you try out one of these new Quilters Select rotary cutters. We're going to be using this product, which is totally new. This is just introduced, and these are the Quilters Select Wave applique scissors. These are applique scissors. I'm going to use my mouse again. And what you'll see is that when you see the scissors, they've got a curved handle. This is only a 1-inch bill right there. And look at the minute and fine point on the tip of those scissors. These are fantastic for in the hoop applique. We're going to be using another new product, and this product is the RNK Stick Stitch Tear Stabilizer. This is a tearaway stabilizer. It is black, and this is a dream of a product to use. It has a wonderful adhesive surface on there. It's dark, and it tears away so beautifully. We're going to be also utilizing the new precision turning tool. If you haven't seen one of these tools are phenomenal. They're metal. They have a square side on there, so when you lay them down on your table, they do not fall off. They've got a ball point here on the tip, and so when you use these to turn the tips through, and you can really get some nice heft in there, they're not going to poke through the corner of your fabric. So we're going to utilize that tool. This is a fairly new product. It was introduced last year, and I don't know if you've gotten the opportunity to try it. I love this product, but this is our Deco Magic, and it comes in 2 weights. It's Deco Magic and the Deco Magic Light. We're going to be utilizing the Deco Magic Light on this month's project. We're going to be creating a racetrack, and we're going to create the pieces, and then we're going to fuse those pieces to the Deco Magic, and that Deco Magic just gives them a really nice texture to them, so that when your kids use them to lay it out on the ground and put their cards on there, it's got a real nice heft to it. And then the other products that we'll use have been in the Floriani and the RNK line for quite a while. So you've got your chrome needles, your embroidery threads, desired the colors that you want as desired, but I do encourage you to pull out those beautiful fluorescent threads that you have, because this is a wonderful project for those. Your template tearaway, we're going to be doing some precision placement. We're going to cut the fabric for the bag first, and then you're going to embroider on the fabric, so you want to have that. And then your Dreamweave Ultra, and remember, Dreamweave Ultra is a fabric prep. You're going to fuse that to the back of your fabric, and it really keeps your fabric looking nice as you embroider on there. You will also need some heavyweight fabric. I recommend denim or something else. I did use denim for my bag. You do not need a lot. 1/2 yard is more than enough, because realistically this is just for the front and the back of the bag, and I made my bag starting off 12 by 12 inches by 12 inches. You'll need 1/2 yard of a novelty themed fabric. I found a really cute fabric with cars on there, and I used that fabric for the pocket and for the handles. You'll need 1/2 yard of plain fabric. This is a lined bag, and so I like light fabrics in my bags. When you create a bag and you use a light fabric inside, and I like to use a plain fabric, then you can see what's in the bag. If you use a darker fabric, or if you use a fabric that has a lot of decoration in it, it makes it hard to see things down in the bottom of your bags. You will also need 1/2 yard of a really black fabric, and Coda makes a fabric called Blackest Black. So if you can find that, it's available at a lot of your quilt stores and some of your big box retailers. It's a really dark black fabric, so it'll be great for the roads in here, or what other plain black fabric you can get, but make sure that it's a premium cotton fabric. You want a really nice quality fabric in there. And the preparation for this project is fairly simple, but I want you to fuse Dreamweave Ultra to the back of your Kona black cotton fabric. So you're going to fuse that to the back of the fabric first, and then you're going to cut the fabric into smaller sizes, and then we're going to lay that on that stick stitch tear and embroider the road pieces. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and get started in our software lesson. I have my FTC-U software open. I have engaged a little program called Pointer Focus, and that's the yellow highlight around my pointer. I think it helps so that you can see where I'm clicking. And I know some people don't like it. I received that feedback, but a lot of people do, and I do think that it helps. The first thing we're going to do is define our grid settings. I'm going to move up. I do have a page open. Remember, you always want to start after you open your software by coming up and clicking on New Document. I'm going to right-click on the ruler, and you've got two rulers. You've got two areas where you can right-click. So I can right-click on this upper ruler, or I can right-click on the ruler that is down the left side of the page. And what we're going to access is the grid settings. Also, verify that you are in inches, not in metric. So I'm going to select my grid settings, and the dialog that opens up are the options for the grid settings, so it takes you directly to this. We want to set our grid spacing right here at 0.25 horizontal and 0.25 vertical. That is 1/4 of an inch. We're going to set our grid measure at 4 horizontal and 4 vertical. That's every inch. We want to show our grid lines as dashed lines. And then we're going to engage the snap to grid function for the first part of the lesson right here. So I'm going to say OK right there. I'm going to go back and right click. I'm going to show my grid. And what you'll see right here by the dashed lines, that's 1/4 of an inch. The darker purple lines are 1 inch. Now let's quickly take a look at the You Design It tool. I'm going to move my cursor up. Your You Design It tool is the little man. I'm going to left click, and that will bring up my You Design It tool. I start on the left side of the frame with a body. You have a monster collection that was given to you. I'm going to drop down and choose Monster Trucks, which is the collection that this month's design originated from. You start with a body. There are a lot of different options for you. I'm going to scroll down so that you can see some of them, and these are applique. Let me turn on 3D view so that you can see them in realistic view. You start with a body. Once you have a body that you like, you move over and you add various elements. For instance, I can add what's called a top accessory. So here's a light bar for my little Jeep. I can come down with a hood accessory if I wanted to. There I go. Now I have a air intake. Then I can start adding my tires. Maybe I want some nice big mud tires. And I can come in for my back tire here. And then I can have a window element. And I think these are fun. There are a lot of different options for you. So there's a boy, a girl, a checkered flag. I love this one right here. Let's do the skeleton. And then one of the last elements, we've got a back window on this particular vehicle. This is not an option on all of the different designs. And then the wheel element. So that's just to kind of decorate that on the inside. Once you have your design the way that you like it, then you just say OK, and your design is built and ready for you to use. I hope you enjoyed that overview of the You Design It. Next, we're going to go back to our project. So if you're following in the handout, we have already performed step 1 in the handout, which was to set the grid. We're ready for step 2, and we're going to prepare our free design for the front of the bag. We're going to click the Library tab to activate the library panel. In the panel, we're going to expand free FTC-U projects by clicking on the plus sign. We're going to expand August, and we're going to highlight and select, left click on August of 2017. Once you've done that, you're going to come over to your Designs tab. You're going to left click to activate your Designs panel. These are your free designs this month. Scroll down to the bottom and find the truck. Left click, drag, and drop it into the page. In order to stitch this out, we're going to do 2 things. Number 1, we're going to run it through Save to Sew. And number 2, we're going to print this design onto a piece of template tearaway. So we're going to go File, make sure you have your template tearaway in your printer. We're going to come into Print Preview. In Print Preview, just real quickly going through the settings, and this is not included in your handout, so you may want to go back and look at myfloriani.club for more detailed information. but these are just, make sure you're printing an actual size. The color analysis will help you. That's the color analysis right here on the bottom of the page. Print on one page. When you select that print on what page, it takes the color analysis and adds it to the bottom of the page. We're going to show crosshair and all other functions in there. So these are just your options in there. Let me go ahead and say okay, and then I'm going to run that through and print it on a piece of template tearaway. Let me go ahead and close that. The next thing is we're going to prepare this design and we're going to run it through Save to Sew. So we're going to click on the Save to Sew. Save to Sew is a proprietary tool in the Floriani software. And what this tool does is it takes your design. So when you open this up, the first thing that you're going to do is under the fabric, you're going to choose a type of fabric or an object. For instance, a baby onesie, or maybe if you're going to sew this on a cap. We're going to put this onto denim. So I'm going to scroll all the way down. I'm going to find denim right here, and I'm going to select I digitized. And the digitized versus I didn't digitized, when you choose I digitized, it's a little more aggressive. So, but either one of those will work. I just, because I did digitize the design, by default select I digitized. Next, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click New Style Settings. And this is really important because when you choose that, what happens is it's going to apply a new density, underlay, push-pull compensation. And I definitely want to do that because I'm putting this design on denim. If I deselect that and I go to Next, what I'm going to get is this really nice window that's going to tell me how to properly prepare this design for stitching it out. So for instance, put Dreamweave Ultra on the back of your fabric. Use Floriani Heat and Stay. There's a nice link in here so that you can click on that and go to a video about that illustrates how to use the product. When you select this tool right here, New Style Settings, it's going to take your design, it's going to analyze it, it's going to adjust the push-pull compensation and the density so that you will get better results when you put this design onto denim. I'm going to say Next. And then it's going to prompt you to save it. At this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my flash drive where I'm going to save it and take it to my machine. We did in last month's Project of the Month talk about some of the newest features, and one of them is the ability to, when you save a design, the software will automatically default to the machine format that you have set up, and it also by default will save your design in WAF format. So if you have questions about that, or why did I not save this as a WAF, I am saving it as a WAF file, but I already have those preferences set up. So go back to last month and watch it, or go into your myfloriani.club. Once I've run that through, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to set that in there, and I'm going to save it. That's all we're going to do with this month's design. So now I'm ready to close it. We're now on step 3 of the handout, and in this step we're going to create an applique pocket for the front of the bag, and we're going to add a name to it. I go ahead, I'm going to select File New. Now I already know the dimensions of my bag, the pocket that I'm going to put on it, and so I decided that if I made the pocket 3 inches tall and 7 inches wide, that would be a really nice size. And what this pocket is it goes on the front of the bag. The little kiddos that you give this to can take their little cars and put them in the bag. They can park their cars in this outside pocket of the bag. So we've got the cars in the outside. We're going to create road pieces that's going to go on the inside with additional cars, and it's just a really nice, soft, quiet project for your kids to take on a plane, or take in the car, or take to the babysitters or grandma's or wherever. So this is a great project for that. I'm going to digitize an applique stitch. So I left click on applique, If I wanted to make any changes as I digitize this, I could. For instance, I could change my width or the applique density. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come down in. I've got my screen set 0. And if you remember, I said I'm going to make this 7 inches by 3 inches tall. So I've got, and I'm using my grid now. So here's my 0 and 0. So if I'm going to make this 7 inches wide, I'm going to come over 3.5 inches. 1, 2, 3.5. And I'm going to go up 3 inches right here. There we go. So now I'm going to left click. I'm going to drop down to my 0. I'm going to left click again. I'm going to move over all the way over to 3.5. I'm going to left click. I'm going to move up. I'm going to left click. Then I'm going to right click to tell the software that I'm done. And now I have just created my applique shape. Next, we're going to add a steel stitch along the center. So as we're creating our project, I've cut my piece of fabric for the front of the bag. I've hooped that piece of fabric. I'm going to stitch out a pocket first. So that's what this is. The pocket's going to be applique. And I'm going to add a divider line right here in the center. Then I can put a car in the left pocket and a car in the right pocket. To digitize a steel stitch, I'm going to come up. I'm going to select my steel stitch. I'm going to left click. Once again, if you wanted to make any changes to the properties as you were stitching this out, you could go ahead and set those, or you can set them afterwards. I'm going to move back over to the 0, and I'm not going to go all the way up to the top. I'm going to drop it just a little bit below. I'm going to left click. I'm going to come all the way down. I'm going to left click, and I want that to overlap just a little bit. I'm going to right click, and there it is, I'm done. I encourage you to add the recipient's name to your project. Let me go right here. I'm just going to zoom out just a little bit, and let's add a name, and we're going to put the name at the top and cars at the bottom. So I'm keeping this fairly simple. Please feel free to customize the project and do what you would like. I'm going to left click right here on the text tool. I'm going to grab my text. I'm going to put a placeholder here. Then the next thing I'm going to do is just come in under the text properties and add a name. And if you wanted to, I would recommend that you go ahead and you align this. So now what I'm using as I align it is this is the center mark under the name right here. And all I'm doing is aligning it with the 0. Let's go down. And in the bottom of this, we're going to say cars. And if you look at my project, the name was Gage. That's my neighbor's grandson, new grandson. And it says Gage's Cars on there. Now, this design is complete. You can feel free to add additional elements as you would like, but I was keeping it simple, and I'm going to do 2 sides on the bag. So on the one side of the bag, I embroidered the truck, and on the back side of the bag, I did the name with the pockets. If you wanted to, you could put the truck and the pocket and the names all on one side of the bag. This is the project that you're creating, so I encourage you, make it yours. Once I have this design set up the way that I would like it, I'm going to save it. So we're going to come in, we're going to do a file save. We're going to call this back. And then I would save that, and I'm ready to embroider it. Let's also print that on a piece of template tearaway. So let's go File. Let's come into our print preview. Let's just check our settings in there. I'm not going to print a color analysis for this particular part of this design because honestly, I don't need it. And then I would just go ahead and print this and print it onto a piece of template tearaway. So that's part 2 of the project. I'm going to go ahead and close. If you're following along in your handout, we're now on page 6. So we're ready to digitize the road. Let's go ahead and open up a new document. And I'm going to come over into the Designs panel and real quickly give you a couple of pointers for digitizing the road. This was just what I'm using Matchbox cars, and I determined that if the road is 3 inches wide and 6 inches long, it makes a nice piece of road. The key when you create any additional pieces is that this needs to be 3 inches where they connect. So you can have fun with the shapes of the road. We'll digitize the curve and we'll digitize the straight road. But when it comes into doing other shapes, that's up to you. I gave you a sample right here. This is just a little serpentine shape that I created. And if you want to take that and turn that into a piece of road, you can. But the key, whatever your width is right here, that width needs to be right here so that they match up together. Let's do our rectangular, our straight piece first. We're going to start off with an artwork shape. So I'm going to left click on rectangle and choose artwork shape. I'm going to come down in. I'm going to make this 3 inches wide and 6 inches tall. As I put in my original shape, my original rectangle, I'm not going to worry about the dimensions at this point in time. I'm not even using my grid backdrop. While that's selected, I'm going to come over to my Transform tab on the Properties bar, and I'm going to make sure that this Maintain Aspect Ratio is unchecked, if you see that. And then I'm going to put in my width is 3 inches, my height is 6 inches, and click on Apply. Now that I've got my road ready, I'm going to take that, I'm going to turn it into Applique. So I'm going to left click and turn it into Applique. Voila, that's it. We're going to do one additional thing though. As we create our road pieces, we're going to skip a step in the Applique process. So normally with Applique in the hoop, you have 3 different files. So I'm going to expand it down here so that you can see this. So this first color that stitches out, if you've never done applique, the first color is what's called a fabric placement. So it stitches that out and it shows you, it gives you a visual of where you're going to place your fabric and how big of a piece it needs. The second thing that stitches out as you're doing applique is what's called the fabric tack down. So after this first stitch stitches, you lay a piece of fabric over the top, and then this stitches down. Once that stitches, you remove the hoop. Do not take the fabric out of the hoop. Remove the hoop and put it on a flat surface, a table. Don't do this in your lap. Put it on a table, and then you're going to trim the outside fabric. So I would just trim along the outside right here. And I'm going to real quickly, this is the fabric placement, tack down right there. So after this red stitch stitches, the second color, the machine will stop. Then I'm going to clip away the fabric that's on the outside. The third thing that stitches is this cover stitch. We're going to skip the first stitch right here. We're going to skip the fabric placement. We're only going to do 2. So I'm going to go back and reselect the design. I'm going to deselect the sew placement, and I'm going to click on Apply. And this is one of the things I love about Floriani software. There's not too many other software programs where you have so many options of manipulating applique files. So if I didn't want to sew the tack down stitch, I could do that. So you do have a lot of options. The third thing is that with applique in the Floriani software, not only can we do a finishing stitch that's a satin stitch and a blanket stitch, but we also have the option of finishing our applique with motif stitches, and you have a whole library of motif stitches, and you have the ability in your software to create additional motif stitches in there if there's something that you don't particularly care for or something that you need that doesn't exist. So once I deselected that and clicked on Apply, if you see down here in the file, when I save this and send it to my machine, that first stitch is gone. And the only purpose of this for me in the project was, number 1, to illustrate it to you so that you know that. And number 2, I've done this before at my machine. I will, as I'm going through and stitching a design, I'll skip a color and it saves time. So you can stitch it or not, but we're saving time in the applique process by removing that sew placement. So that's the first part of the road. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do our center lines down the road here. So that's just going to be a simple steel stitch. Let me center this up first, just to kind of give me a nice visual center line. So now that I've got that in the center, let's go ahead. Let's do our steel stitch. Let me make sure I've got a yellow. And I'm going to left click and make that about an inch in length. Now, notice that I've got my tool tip showing. And what I mean by my tool tip is that if you look on the outside of your cursor right there, it says length 1 inch. That's your tool tip. So you can use that. I'm going to right click and there's my steel stitch. I'm not going to digitize additional pieces. I'm going to use my first piece. I'm going to come down, I'm going to duplicate it and move it down. I'm going to duplicate it and move it down. I'm going to duplicate it and move it down. The reason why I am duplicating, I did this one first, duplicated it, this one second, and it creates a really nice progression of stitches in here when you use the previous one to do that. Let's select all of those elements. We're going to come up right here. This is called distribute. And what it does is it looks at the first element and the last element, and then it distributes anything in between with mathematical precision. So I've got those distributed. They look really good. And the last thing I want to do is I want to make sure that they line up nice in the center. There you go. My straight road is done. We're not going to print this on template tearaway. We don't need to. We're just going to save it for our machine. So we just go in, we do a file, save it out for your machine in there. And we'll call this straight road. And save. We're ready to make our arced piece of road. And I'm going to be honest with you. I found this to be most challenging. I can do a straight, I can do a circle, but to do an arc that was even, I struggled with. And so bear with me here, and you may have a better way for doing it. I'm going to use my line tool. So there we go. I'm going to left click on that, and I'm still creating artwork. And we're going to come down, we're going to digitize our arc. We're going to come down 3 inches. We're going to create an arc. We're going to drop over 3 inches. We're going to come back around, and then we're going to use this tool right here, which is called close shape. And what that tool does is that it's going to take the 2 ends of the shape, and it's going to automatically close that up for us. So let's go ahead and get started with that. One other thing. Be sure, let's right click and turn off our snap to grid. When you try to create an arc, if you're trying to click somewhere in here that's not in the grid and you have your snap to grid turned on, it's going to automatically, your cursor will jump over there. So for this, we're making an arc and we do not want to have snap to grid turned on. I'm going to left click. I'm going to drop down 3 inches. I'm going to left click again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over 1 inch, and this is going to give me a nice straight connector for my road pieces. I'm going to move over, and it doesn't make any difference how far you go. This is up to you, but we're going to hold down our control key and we're going to left click, and that's going to start our arc progression for us. And so you can make your arc whatever dimensions you would like. I'm still holding my control key. I'm going to left click again. So now I've got an arc in there. Now I'm going to move over 3 inches. I've got my tooltip that tells me exactly when I get to 3 inches. There we go. I'm going to left click. I'm going to move up, and I'm going to left click again before I hold down my control key. And the purpose of that is that it will give you a nice sharp corner down here at the bottom. So all you have to do is move up and left click that. Now I'm going to go back and engage my control key to finish off my arc. So I'm going to look here and I'm going to measure over 1, 2, 3. I'm going to come up. And this is where I started running into problems. It was like, oh my gosh, I am not very good at creating something like this at all. So I just kind of eyeballed it. 1, 2, 3. So about here. There's an arc. I'll finish it right here. Now I'm going to release my control key. I'm going to come over, and all you need to do at this point is click close shape. And then that's going to close that shape up there for you. You may want to go back and fix your shape. So if I select my edit tool, I can just come in and maybe adjust the arcs of that just a little bit. And as I said, this is something that I struggled with. I don't know why, but I just started eyeballing it, and when I got it to where I pretty much felt good about it, I called her good. When you have your arc shape the way that you want it, select that, and then let's turn that into applique just as we did before. Let's go ahead and remove that placement stitch and make sure you do an apply. The last thing that we're going to do with this is to create the lines that are going to go down here, the center lines. And there's a couple of different thoughts. The first time I did this, I tried to make curved lines, and what I found was it worked better if I just made straight lines and kind of angled them around. So that's the method that I'm going to show you in the lesson. So I've got my steel stitch. I'm going to come over. I'm going to make a 1-inch line. Left click, right click to make that. And I'm going to go ahead and change that to yellow. Now I'm going to move that over. And I'm just using the grid here as a guideline. So I'm going to put that in the center. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to move my second one over. I'm just going to rotate it. So on the corner, you've got a blue circle, and I'm just going to rotate that just a little bit. And then I'm going to continue moving around. So I left about 1/4 of an inch between each of those spaces and then just moved them around. And it doesn't look as good as if I had those arced, but if you wanted to make these arced, then certainly you could do that. Once you have your arc the way that you want it, then you're going to save it. So we're just going to go in, we're going to perform a file, we're going to perform a file save, and we're going to call this curve road. And then save that to your flash drive, and you're ready to go. That concludes the software lesson component of this project. As a reminder, and I like to always review where you're going to find the handout for the project. So you're going to go to your computer once you have downloaded the August free designs, navigate to the C drive, and find the folder titled Floriani. In the Floriani folder, there is another folder called Designs. Open up the Designs folder, and there's a folder titled Free FTC-U Projects. Open the FTC-U Projects. Once you have that open, find the August folder, open it up, find August of 2017. So I'm using Windows Explorer to navigate to this. Once I've found that August 2017, when you select it, and notice that I have my computer set up in list view. And depending on the version of Windows that you're working in, you may get to the list view differently, or maybe you're seeing this as icons or something. Look for the PDF file, and it's titled Racetrack Applique. Open that up, print it off, and you're going to have your directions on how to navigate through this project. It's going to give you your materials. It's going to give you those step-by-step hints and tips and tricks and concepts for working through the project. Now, as far as the construction of the project goes, there's several components to this project. So the first thing is that you've got your free design. So I'm in my software. I have the free design right here. You're going to create the Applique Pocket with the name that's going to hold the cars, and you're going to customize it. So you see that side of the bag over here. So this is the name. Here's the cars. Here's the little Applique Pocket that I created for that. And then the cars sit right inside of it. On the reverse side of the bag, this is the reverse side, you'll see there's my applique with the truck in there. Here's the track laid out. So your track is going to have curved pieces and straight pieces. Make as many as you want. I do feel like you need 4 curves, definitely. You can do more. And I felt like you could do maybe 6 pieces of straight track or more. You could probably get away with 4. But I think 6 makes it a little bit better. But make as many as you want. They don't take very much time. And of course, what I did is, instead of making one at a time, I grabbed my large hoop for my embroidery machine and I loaded in as many of these applique designs as I could in my large embroidery hoop. And I think I got 4 of them in there. So I actually embroidered 4 of these straight pieces at one time. And I was able to embroider 3 of the curved pieces at one time. You will have to do multiple hoopings in the project. So you've got one hooping right here to do the front of the bag. You've got another hooping right here to do the back of the bag. And then however many hoopings you need in order to do the pieces. As I said, double up on the racetrack pieces to save time. As far as the road construction goes, so we're talking about how you're going to do this in the hoop. So fuse Dreamweave Ultra to the back of the fabric. I did not showcase that. I've shown it in previous lessons. Dreamweave Ultra, when you take the time to put that on the back of your fabric, what it's going to do is it does not change the feel of the fabric, but it's going to make that fabric behave better when you embroider on it. So it increases the thread count. So you've got a really nice fabric to begin with. We add the Dreamweave Ultra to the back of it. And the pieces, I wish you could see the finished pieces, but they really are nice. You're going to use that RNK stick, stitch, and tear in the hoop. Now, you could use a different tearaway stabilizer. That's up to you. I wanted to use the stick, stitch, tear because A, it's black, B, it's a tearaway, and C, it has an adhesive on it. So I love this stabilizer. The first thing that you'll do, I've got my stick, stitch, tear in the hoop. I lay my fabric down on top of it. I stitch that first line. And once I do that, you cut away the outside. Trim the fabric. Finish stitching it out, which is going to be the finished edge and your center line. Once you're done, remove it from the hoop, tear away the stabilizer. And then lay it on a piece of your Deco Magic Light. Now, when you get your Deco Magic Light, it's got 2 sides to it. One side, the shiny side, has an adhesive on it. Lay your finished pieces on the adhesive, fuse your pieces to the Deco Magic Light, and then I just took my rotary cutter and trimmed a ray right here on the front. And when you flip it over, that's what it's going to look like on the back. And I love the Deco Magic on these road pieces because it provides stability to them. It does not add bulk. They're still very flexible and soft, but yet they have firmness in them. So this is a perfect product for this particular project. As far as the bag construction goes, I cut 2 pieces of heavy denim. I used my Quilter Select ruler. This is 12 by 12. So I had my denim. It was folded in half. I laid my Quilter Select ruler on top of it. I took my rotary cutter. I cut around the outside so that it's 12 by 12. Perfect size. I did the same thing with my lining fabric. Then you're going to have your fabric and you're going to position. I printed off my design on my Floriani template tearaway. You are going to cut around the outside of that, remove the paper backing off of the template tearaway, and then place the template tearaway onto your pocket. Now, you can't see this very well, but I marked the center of my fabric. So I folded the fabric in half one time and then 2 times so that I had a nice little cross center in here. Or you can just use your ruler. This is 6 inches. Lay your Quilter Select ruler right here. Mark 6 inches diagonally, 6 inches horizontally. And then use that to line up the template tearaway. So there's cross marks right here, cross marks here, and then just lay that down on there. And then you can take it to your hoop. So in my hoop, I have R&K stick, stitch, and tear once again in the hoop. Lay my fabric on top. I used my clear plastic grid that came with my hoop. I laid it on top, moved it over, laid it on the stabilizer in the hoop, pressed it down. I'm good to embroider that. Some more tips for the construction of the bag. Let's talk about preparing the material for the pocket. What you're going to do is cut a piece of your fabric for your pocket. This is going to go on the outside of the bag, and make it a little bit larger than the dimensions of the pocket that you're appliquing. For instance, in my bag, the finished pocket measured 3 inches tall and 7 inches wide. So what I did was I cut a piece of fabric 8 inches by 8 inches, just a little bit bigger than the finished size. I then cut a piece of Floriani medium fusible cutaway stabilizer 4 inches by 8 inches. I laid the stabilizer down onto the fabric. I fused this in place, and this is the wrong side of the fabric. Once I had that fused in place, I folded the fabric back on top of there and then cut it. So as I was creating my pocket in the hoop, because we're going to applique the pocket on, it stitches the tack down stitch, and then place your finished pocket with that finished edge to the top. Place that down, then complete the applique process in there. So you're going to tack it down, trim around the outside, do the cover stitch, and you have a really nice finish pocket on there. As far as completing the project, this is a fairly simple project in that you're just making a bag. You're going to do several separate hoopings. One of the hoopings is going to be embroidering the name and the pocket on the outside of the bag. Another hooping will be embroidering the monster truck on the outside of the bag, and feel free to modify this project as you see fit. And then the other hoopings, and it may be 1, it may be 3, it may be more, is you're going to embroider your racetrack pieces. To stabilize my bag, I used the Floriani medium fusible stabilizer. 12 inches wide, I cut it in a 12-inch piece. You have a couple of other options. I use the medium fusible. You may want to have a little more structure to the bag. The medium fusible gives you a really nice soft finish. To give you more structure, you could use our Deco Magic, and that will give you a nice firm finish. You could use the Deco Magic Light. That is the product that we used for the racetrack. That's less firm. With both of these products, they have a fusible side to them. You're just going to fuse that to the back of the bag. Or you could use our NK So Fab Foam. Either one of these products, the Deco Magic Light, or the RNK So Fab Foam, will provide you with more structure in your bag, but leave it soft. So I just wanted to present those options for you. To prepare the handles, you will need 2 of them. I cut my fabric that matches the pocket into an 18-inch strip. I cut 2 3-inch by 18-inch strips. I fused my medium cutaway stabilizer to the inside of the handle, that fabric. I folded it in half and I pressed it lengthwise. Then I fold those, and I'm using my mouse just to show you this. I folded the outsides in to match that center marking, pressed it again, fold this in half, and then did a quick top stitch to create those handles. Very, very simple. Makes a nice handle in there. It's actually 4 layers of fabric, so it's going to be very sturdy and strong. For the construction, make sure that you refer to the handout for a little more information, although I didn't provide detailed information. So if you are new to making any kind of a bag like this, I encourage you, and it's in the handout, to maybe view a couple of videos on the internet, simple bag constructions. What you're going to do is I tacked my handles onto the outside of the bag. And as I said, refer to the handout to see where they are. Then once I had those handles tacked onto it, the next thing that I did was I stitched my lining on the top here. So I've got my 2 sides separate, stitched the lining on. Open it up, and now we're ready to stitch the bag together. So I've got 2 long pieces of fabric now. Matched the lining pieces, then I stitched along the outside, and then I stitch the bottom. And I like to stitch the outside first and then the bottom, because unless you're using a walking foot, as you stitch those sides, you can have some fabric shift in there, and I like it to match up nice and even on the bottom. Once you have the bottom stitched, we're going to make nice square corners in the bottom, and this is an easy way to do this. You're going to notch the 4 corners. So here's my Quilter Select ruler. And this is just a tip. If you've never done a bag with notches before, the bigger the notch, believe it or not, the smaller the bag is going to be. So if you want your bag to be taller and thinner, make a very small notch, maybe even a 1/2 inch. I made my notches 1.5 inch, and it gave me a really nice dimension on the bag. You lay your ruler down, and then you're going to cut a square. Make sure that it's even. So this is 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches. Once you have that notch in there, you're going to cut that fabric out. Squeeze the fabric together and match those side seams. Then you're going to stitch straight across. Then when you turn the bag right side out, you've got nice square corners. Now when you turn that bag right side out, remember your RNK turning tool. That will help you get those corners really clean. Once your bag is complete, I encourage you to share that. Remember that we have on Facebook the Floriani Embroidery Group. We also have, if you are on Instagram and post it up there, if you put in the description at Casey Farrell, then it will post to me and I will see that. Some descriptors for this project: hashtag August Project, hashtag Floriani Embroidery, hashtag Floriani Applique, hashtag Racetrack. If you have any questions about the project, please feel free to email me. My email is kathyf@rnkdistributing.com. I will reply to you within 1 day. And until next time, thank you so much for joining me.